Who are the points gained all-stars? And is there anything we want on the final Eastern Conference teams? Philadelphia, Toronto, and Washington as we continue on Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving insight, expertise, geeky numbers, hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan every day. Thanks for making Locked On Jazz your first listen. For your second listen today, when you're done, make sure you go grab Locked On Bets for the weekend. Get you going with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. NBA trade deadline show will be coming your direction here on the Locked On NBA channel on YouTube. All right, who are the All-Stars? A little funky. Points gained is only an offensive statistic. If you don't know points gained, it is an offensive metric we use that takes the amount of possessions you use, your efficiency with those possessions, your points scored compared to what an average player in the NBA would do with the same possessions, and then look at that. And that's how we judge where a player sits. So the best in the league right now is actually Rudy Gobert at 3.7. He uses 11 scoring opportunities a night, and he scores 3.7 points better than the league average. Kevin Durant is number 2 in the league. Where did Jokic go? Jokic is missing on my chart for some reason. Oh, I know why, because I have never mind. Number 1 in the league is Nikola Jokic at 3.8, not Rudy Gobert. He takes 20 scoring opportunities a game. He scores 3.8 points above the league average, and that is the best there is. If you've never done this before, there's usually 3 players above 3 and about 10 players above 2. It's a little deeper this year, above 2. In the Western Conference, your All-Stars would be Nikola Jokic, Rudy Gobert, LeBron James, and then it's hard to find guards. Guards are having a tough year because you can't get fouled on threes and you don't get fouled driving the basket anymore. So I took guards that are using at least 15 scoring opportunities to show that they're actually pretty bona fide, not just efficient. Eric Gordon, by the way, gets screwed by that. Eric Gordon's having a heck of a year. Steph Curry, obviously. And then actually Mike Conley gets kind of banged by that as well. Mike Conley would be on this list as a guard, except for he actually doesn't have enough scoring opportunities. So Desmond Bane of Memphis would actually be the next All-Star. If you're just going with the stupid NBA front court, backcourt, 2 backcourt players, 3 front court players. Eric Gordon probably deserves to be in there, but he's using 11 scoring opportunities a night. As I mentioned, Mike Conley probably deserves to be in there for a guard. He's one of the most efficient guards in the NBA right now because of the fact, but again, not enough scoring opportunities. And you get to Desmond Bane. So Mike Conley is using 12 scoring opportunities a night. And then Desmond Bane is using the 15. So he gets in. So Desmond Bane would be my 5th player in the Western Conference. A little surprising, but also then starts to make you wonder why Memphis is so good, like we talked about on another part of the show. On the Eastern Conference, a little surprising, I think, for everybody. You'd look at Jarrett Allen would be on the All-Star team for Cleveland. Then Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid would be your front court players. I don't know what to do with Giannis, but he certainly makes the team. And then Zach LaVine is the most efficient guard so far in the NBA this year. Trae Young comes in right after that. Seth Curry and Jimmy Butler would be kind of the next realm of your Eastern Conference point gained All-Stars at this point. Staying on our theme today, because the Jazz play the Grizzlies, on why Memphis is so good. In regards to efficiency, Brandon Clark 1.6, Desmond Bane 1.0, John Morant 0.7, John Conchor 0.4. So when I said he was Joe Ingles, he's not really quite that good. Tyus Jones at 0.2, and then a bunch of players are actually below average, which fights against our entire points gain system, but that goes to the fact that they get all those offensive rebounds, and that's what makes them survive. And when they don't get offensive rebounds, then they really are not a particularly strong offensive team. For your Utah Jazz, the goal when you build a roster with points gained is you want to have every single player being above average. Negative players are much more detrimental than I think most people realize. For the Utah Jazz, Rudy Gobert is at 3.7, Bojan Bogdanovic at 1.3, Hassan Whiteside at 1.1, Mike Conley at 1.0, which is super good for a guard. We just talked about that. Royce O'Neal 0.8, Donovan Mitchell 0.4, Eric Paschall 0.5, Trent Forrest 0.2, Rudy Gay even, Joe Ingles even, and that's a big change for the Jazz. Joe Ingles last year was a 1.8. This year he is a 0. And then of guys, Jordan Clarkson is at minus 1.2. Last year, Jordan Clarkson was at minus 0.7. So those two players, the dip there. Boyan is at 1.3, and last year was at zero point 0.5. So he's picked up that slack. George Niang last year was a zero point 0.4. Eric Pascal and Rudy Gobert are kind of matching that a little bit if you're wondering on the Jazz. Overall points gained, if you're new to it, as we said, the top players in the league. Big guys have huge advantages this year because guards can't get fouled on threes and guards aren't getting fouled going to the basket. So big guys have elevated. Jokic 1, Gobert 2, Jared Allen 3, Kevin Durant 4, LeBron James top 5. Joel, Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid, Domantas Sabonis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, DeAndre Ayton, all in that list. Least efficient players in the NBA. This is a little bit misleading because Michael Porter Jr. has been there all year. So guys are actually playing. Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 44 games has now become the least efficient offensive player in the NBA, or largest negative impact. Josh Giddey in Oklahoma, Jalen Suggs in Orlando, Reggie Jackson with the Clippers, Davion Mitchell, not that big a surprise, but DeJounte Murray for all the talk, then Russell Westbrook, Ricky Rubio, Precious Achua, Dante DiVincenzo, and Jalen Green. Rookies aren't that surprising to have in there. Are the Phoenix Suns the perfectly built roster with everybody being positive? Sure felt like it watching them the last two nights. Let's find out. DeAndre Ayton, 2.5. Bismack Biyombo, 1.8. JaVale McGee, 1.6. Bigs matter. Frank Kaminsky, then Cameron Johnson, 1.1. Mikal Bridges, 0.8. Chris Paul, 0.4. Jay Crowder, negative 0.1. Devin Booker, negative 0.2. Landry Shamet, negative 0.4. Probably all fine, but then you get to Elfrid Payton, minus 1.2, and Cam Payne, minus 1.3. Those aren't great for them on that. BetOnline.ag is your spot to get all your gambling game on for this weekend. The NFC Championship games. We got great previews all across Locked On Network. By the way, Isaiah Stanback, our NFL expert, broke down both games for you at the Locked On NFL channel. Plus, our local experts have broken it all down. Chiefs are a 7-point favorite against Cincinnati, and the Rams are a 3.5-point favorite over the Niners. So go check those out in the various lines there. Over under 54 in the Cincinnati Kansas City game, and 45.5 on the Rams and Niners. NBA tonight, the Jazz heading to Memphis. You can get on that action at betonline.ag. It's currently Memphis -4. Other Lakers tonight are in Charlotte, where the Charlotte Hornets are a 7.5-point favorite over the Lakers. They must not think LeBron's going to go. Atlanta, a 1.5-point favorite over Boston, and a good one. Get into all the action at betonline.ag. Use the promo code LOCKED50 and get a 50% welcome bonus. Let's wrap up our series that we've been doing all week on do they have anyone we want? And we look at the Eastern Conference teams. This week, we'll do Western Conference teams. Last week, we start with Philadelphia. Philadelphia, Tobais Harris at $35 million is supposedly available. 3 years left. I really like Tobais Harris. I don't love Tobais Harris at $36 million. Ben Simmons is available, $33 million. I'm not sure how the Jazz are putting together either of those two numbers. Tobais Harris, I've always thought would be a nice player. I wish he had a little more zest, a little more impact on the game at $35 million. We really, Jazz liked him, could play with the ball in his hands, play pick and roll, do a lot of things, match our systems, play very well for us. I think he'd be terrific. He's not a great defensive player. But then when he got the max deal by Philly, he seemed a little less terrific. Seth Curry's the best bargain in the league at $8.2 million. He's right on the level of being an all-star. I don't think they'd move Korkmaz. George Niang would take him back in a second because he's just the best dude that's ever been around. So Philadelphia, frankly, it's really, unless you're doing some absolutely massive Tobais Harris deal where you're taking 2 more years at $35 million, which would put us so far over the tax. It's crazy. But that's kind of the same concept what we talked about Gordon Hayward, that those are the landscape changing players. Another landscape changing player would be Portland. It would be Toronto. I don't think they would do it, but Pascal Siakam at $33 million for 2 more years. And again, you're into the same game here where can the Utah Jazz actually handle that? You'd have, and from why would the other team do it? In the case of Philadelphia, it'd be to get off picks. In the case of Toronto, it's to get off money. In the case of Toronto, it's probably that they're trying to rebuild it a little bit, and you're going to have to give up an awful lot. Nobody else on this roster really moves the meter unless Toronto has someone they want on our roster. We're taking Goran Dragic to try to get off contracts rather than to get on contracts. Um, I liked Malachi Flynn out of the draft. It's been harder to watch. He's so small. It's been harder to watch him play in the NBA than I thought I would. OG Anunoby is one of the best contracts in the NBA at 16 million for 4 years. So you'd have to give up the house. So I mean, this is this kind of landscape changing when we've run the Eastern Conference. You're talking Gordon Hayward, you're talking Tobias Harris, you're talking Pascal Siakam, but I don't know how you possibly put those together if you're the Utah Jazz, and I don't know how Ryan and Ashley Smith handle having a luxury tax for that many more years. It's kind of crazy. Bradley Beal, we go to Washington. Spencer Dinwiddie's interesting here at 17 million. They don't love him. He hasn't. I mean, I think they love him, but they don't love his fit. He's not really a point guard. They've had all sorts of problems as point guard with him. I don't know. Does he make us a lot better? Does he move our meter 2 more years on that? Maybe. But it's not. It's not a no brainer. I love Kyle Kuzma. Frankly, I just love his length. I love what he does, but I don't think that. Washington's moving out from under that 13 million, but maybe Washington's got big plans for Bradley Beal and a free agent signing, and they need to move money, and you can do a Kyle Kuzma deal on an expiring contract. He's not perfect. I just like his length, frankly. I like how long he is when he plays. I like how he rebounds. I like how much space he covers. I don't like his inefficient shooting. I love his outfits. I just, so I mean, he's kind of frankly he's got the length that we need, which is what I like there. Contavious Caldwell Pope is at 13. I wonder if they would trade Kyle Kuzma, Contavious Caldwell Pope, to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook. Oh, probably not. So that wraps up our Eastern Conference look, and I think what we're finding is to make a catastrophic change on who the Jazz are. You really have to do something mammoth, overwhelming, and then I don't know how you do any of the things we've talked about inside the luxury tax. All right, tried something today. We'll see how it works out, whether you like it or not. Having the short snippets on YouTube and the full show on Locked On shouldn't impact you as a podcaster. Please let me know what your thoughts are. This has been Locked On Jazz. Have a wonderful weekend. Postcast later tonight. Have a good one.